Hello there and good morning. Now, the ECHR has just meted out another atrocious legal decision. At this rate, it won't be long before there is a massive flood of voters demanding we leave this outdated organisation. And this case just joins a litany of others of similar vein. So, OK, it wasn't the actual European Court of Human Rights that made a judgment against the UK. It was our own court system that invoked the ECHR and Human Rights Act to ensure that a convicted county lines drug runner with what is called a significant number of criminal convictions against him could not be deported back to Nigeria. A drug runner who not only had been granted anonymity, but also, with the help of his girlfriend, raked in $5,000 a week. Think about the damage they could already have wreaked on the vulnerable. But he's now the victim whose family life in the UK cannot be violated. Now, before I bring Richard into this conversation, I'll point out that according to his lawyers, he would struggle to reintegrate into Nigerian society, so he can't be sent back there. What do you think, Richard?
Well, I'm getting sick and tired of watching serious criminals getting all the love from the system, whilst ordinary Brits are thrown into jail to be attacked and persecuted by an untouchable demographic. Yes, I'm talking, of course, about our political prisoners. Yes, grandmothers who said the wrong thing on social media being thrown into jail, yet you can't deport drug dealers. Oh, okay, that seems fair enough as a system. Yeah. Patriots who fear for the lives of their children and grandchildren thrown into jail for a few hurty words to policemen, one of whom has now died as a result of his arrest. But it's okay for policemen to get shouted at and called hurty words by our untouchable demographic. Yes, that's okay, isn't it? Britain is at boiling point, and it's not going to take much more for an angry response by the public to break out, and unfortunately with the potential to overreach and go too far in that reaction by the public. So yeah, our political leaders are playing with fire, and I fear for the future. But this goes deeper than just our politicians, because I wonder if these are the type of people that His Majesty King Charles said we need to be more welcoming to. He must want them here, otherwise he would have made it more clear that criminals of this nature have no place in this country. But he hasn't. No, he said nothing. He just sat back and let his country fall apart, watch his people suffer. The entire establishment is at war with the people of Britain. This country is now a joke. Why can't we have a Trump-like figure come in and take over? That's how I feel about this right now. Jeff, over to you, mate.
Right, the question I have, did this drug runner ever properly and lawfully integrate into UK society? Or is county lines drug running now considered as integration? If it is, we have a huge problem in the UK, a huge drug problem that can only be catered for by bringing in people from outside to deal with it. It just beggars belief. Now, he also claimed his close relatives had died in Nigeria, but he provided no proof, and also that his half-brother, who had already been deported back to Nigeria, could not help him. So that's why he needs to be here in the UK with what's left of his family, because he's got no one back in Nigeria who can look after him. What do you think about that then, Richard?
Well, there's nothing left of Britain, really. He said, yeah, there's nothing left of this country, I don't think, for him to... I mean, why would he want to stay here? What is there? Except for a little bit of drugs money to be made, probably, with very wealthy people in London right now who seem to be soaking up a lot of the wealth in this country, as wealth is extracted from the average person on the street. I mean, I was watching... I don't know if you saw it on X. I can't remember his name. He's the man who I believe Donald Trump is putting in charge of deporting millions of people. And why can't we have a chap like that? Because he seems quite vehement, and adamant, I should say, that he is going to deport millions of people. And when he was posed with the question, well, what about people's families? How are you going to split people's families up? And he's like, no, you don't have to split people's families up. The entire family can be deported.
They all go.
Yeah. So that's the position.
That's their choice. That's their choice.
Yeah, exactly. That's the position that he has on the matter. And some people might find that a little bit harsh, but I don't know. We're in a very, very serious situation. We have got people in this country, we don't know who they are. And when we do find out who a lot of them are, we find out that they're
unsavory.
Yes, unsavory. So,
but I was looking on Twitter this morning, and one word kept popping up all over the place. Well, I should call it X, shouldn't I? One thing was on there all over the place, the word remigration, especially where Europe, not Britain, but Europe was concerned. So, Anyway, thanks to Mike Gibson and for your contribution. Have you forgotten to put a shilling in the meter? I'm not sure about that, whether I did or someone did at some stage. But I think that might be a reference to Richard cracking out of the live stream the other day suddenly. Yeah, I don't think he did put a shilling in the meter that day. Anyway, this guy had already served 8 years for supplying drugs, or was sentenced to 8 years. What use is he going to be if he stays in this country? Supplying drugs to the higher levels of the legal profession, maybe? Now, before I go on, I just want to point out that the 27th of November is Tommy Robinson's birthday. So send him a card. And if his jail changes in the interim, I'm sure that his Twitter feed will tell you where he's moved to. Now, I have to say that on the same day, the 27th of November, the Tooting Four are in court in Westminster Magistrates Court at 10 a.m. Now, you may not have heard of the Tooting Four, but I've had a chat with a couple of them, and I'm not going to prejudice any future court case, just to say that I think they deserve a bit of support on the day. So if you can be in London on the day at Westminster's Magistrates Court, please do support them. You might need to look it up on the web. Anyway, let's get back to this drug dealer and his non-deportation.
Well, I'm looking here. Sorry, Jeff, just two seconds. I have been, a few people in the comment section have mentioned, yes, Tom Homan, I think his name is the chap that Trump is getting to deal with, the deportations and the border issues in America at the moment. So, that's the chap. So thank you for that, everyone. Yeah.
Well, there's one. Having lived in Nigeria, he would integrate back very well. Oh, well, that's... yes. And we are the dustbin of the world. Well, it seems like that, doesn't it?
It does.
I'm with you, Richard. Getting very sick of this madness. I think we all are, to be honest. Now, one of the problems with his deportation was over his mental health problems. They can't be dealt with properly in Nigeria, it seems. What are we saying, that Nigerian healthcare isn't up to the task of looking after its citizens? Isn't that racist? That's a racist thing to assert, isn't it?
Totally racist.
Surely all countries are better than us at doing these sorts of things, aren't they? Yeah.
I'm just wondering how much more the British people can take. As I said, I'm not trying to instigate anything. I'm worried. We are going to see a massive overreach. For a start, we've got the farmers justifiably going out on the 19th. When's it? Tuesday, I believe. Is that, Jeff?
Yeah, on the 19th.
Tuesday. Yeah. So the farmers are going to be going out, and they're going to be making their voices heard. And I hope they do so very robustly, because this is it for farmers. This is their only chance. But this is the farmers, okay? Everybody else in this country is literally at boiling point. Can't they see? I would say, can't they see this? But I think it's more than obvious. So I am very concerned that there is an element of this being designed, that they want people to snap. That's the only conclusion I can draw in this. They want people to snap. So how can we sort out this problem we've got with X, Y, and Z? With, how do we pay farmers the correct amount so they don't get too disappointed in losing their family farms, or being able to hand them down? And how do we sort out all these drug dealers? How do we do that? Oh, of course, central bank digital currency. Yes, the people will beg for it because it will be an answer. It won't be, it'll destroy us completely. You will lose all your own personal freedoms. But that's the answer. I know, look, you can call me a conspiracy theorist all you like. I don't care. But if you see something that's been almost designed to break down the system, what is the reason behind it? These are the questions you need to ask.
Yeah. Now, the other thing to note is that this particular case comes on the heels of him going to a lower immigration tribunal. And the lower immigration tribunal had rejected his claims and said that his girlfriend had a good support structure in Nigeria and she had proved that she was able to look after herself and a child without him while he was in prison. So that tribunal had actually rejected his claims to being deported. But it was the higher immigration tribunal that overturned it on delicate balances of family life and errors in law. So it seems that the higher up the system you get, the more woke you get. I don't know, but that's what it seems to me.
Well, what about the impact, right, of people who've been sent to prison, our political prisoners? What about the impact on their family lives?
Yeah.
Is that mentioned? What about the impact on Peter Lynch's family's life right now?
Yeah. That's the problem, isn't it? We don't matter. It doesn't matter.
And there was that grandmother who got sent to prison. I believe she was the carer for her husband.
Yeah.
This makes me sick. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Nobody. Love from Belfast. Thank you for your super chat. Thank you. Sorry, I am really very angry. Very, very angry. It's not just two-tier policing and justice system. This is downright evil. There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, actually, there was an appeal just recently by 4 of those arrested during those riots. One of them had their sentence reduced to a suspended sentence, I believe, but the others had all their claims rejected on the basis that they had to be harsh against them to stop the riots. But we don't have to be harsh against county drug runners, do we? County lines drug runners. We don't have to be harsh against those that carry and use knives. We don't have to be, harsh against anyone engaged in illegal immigration or anything like that, do we? Only harsh against those in Britain who are British or who support Britain and have integrated and are beginning to get a bit upset about the way this country's going. They have to be treated harshly. There you go.
There's one comment here. Revolution is required, Jeff. Maybe, but hopefully it'll be a political one and a peaceful one.
Political. Just like in America. Yeah. That has been a political revolution. What people don't actually understand is that not only did Trump win the presidential election, he's also won I believe he's won both houses in America, the lower and upper house, or he's on the verge of doing so.
Yeah.
That means he's got all the power. Not only that, he might soon take full control of the Supreme Court because they have politicized appointments into the Supreme Court. 3 of them are up for retirement. And what's happening right now is that the Democratic Party in America, are trying to rush those along so they can Biden can appoint them before Trump can. But I'm not sure how legal or if that's ever going to happen. And one other piece of news I picked up, about Trump he didn't accept the result of 2020, whatever it was. I hear a rumor that Kamala Harris is out looking for funds so that she can fight legally for recounts. So she obviously hasn't given up either. Anyway, yes. As we say, on this particular drug running case, it just beggars belief. If it wasn't for the our membership of the ECHR, and worse, the ECHR having been put fully into UK law in the Human Rights Act. So we've got no way out of it. If it hadn't been for that, this guy might well have been sent back. But because of that, the courts are just not going to send them back. And until that changes, nothing will change, because the courts will keep ruling the same way. And there you go.
Well, I don't think Nigel Farage quite understands. Well, maybe he does. What's resting on his shoulders right now, and why he has to get his act into gear when it comes to, let's just say, the more working class and down to earth people who support Tommy, because the attitude from him and from Richard Tice has been a bit deplorable. We've gone over this ground previously, and I'm not going to go over it for too long. But my point is, so much rests on Farage right now. Yesterday you did a video, Jeff, where you said that he is now the most popular, Nigel Farage, the most popular political leader in Wales.
Yes,
now,
right.
If that's true, that's absolutely incredible. I can well believe it, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that there is every chance that this man could be the next prime minister. And if he is, he's got to get it right. And
he has.
Here's the danger. I am fearful that he might push forward leading up to the general election, but will he want himself to be the figurehead past that point in time? Does he want to be prime minister, or is he thinking of installing somebody else in as prime minister? Now, that's where I do have a fear, particularly with regard to a certain person who's very prominent in that party at the moment. And I think that's the fear of a lot of people. He needs to come out and say, no, that's not going to happen, because otherwise Reform will just lose so many votes. It'll almost feel like an establishment stitch at that point. So, Nigel, there's a lot of people relying on you and waiting for you to try and get this all together, your act together and Reform together, because otherwise, if the political route is removed and it becomes blatantly obvious that there is no political way out of this, I don't want to talk about what people might do, because we know what people might do. When you remove away people's democratic rights and their ability to affect change in their lives through the ballot box, what else happens? I fear for that day. Or is it illegal to even say that, and you just can't even think that thought? You can't even speculate upon or read the room, as I should say, read the room of public opinion at the moment, because public opinion is absolutely at boiling point. Everywhere, everyone I speak to, I don't know anybody who is happy with Keir Starmer. I know Labour voters. I don't know one of them who is content and happy with what they have voted in.
Well, there are the union members and the union bosses are very happy because they're going to get given everything they want on a plate at the expense of everybody else, especially the private sector. And that's where that is going to all come undone. Because if, like the farmers, they start following suit, the farmers are talking about a sort of a rebellion of food blockades and all sorts of stuff. And if that happens, what else will other people in the private sector get up to? I know they've got to make a profit, but why would they make a profit if most of it's going to go into the gaping maw of the public sector, which is growing all the time? Yeah, I just wonder. It's, someone says here, calm before the storm. Maybe. Yeah, but there you go. Anyway, what I want to say is that we do have a chance at the ballot box, and the first time we have is in May. Do not vote Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem or Green. Voting for them brings in more of this, more net zero, more woke every single time. Everything they touch is woke and net zero, because those are the two ways of controlling the masses. They think if they can impose net zero regulations on us, means we can't do as much as we want to do. And if they put wokeness on us, we can't do as much as we want to do. And we start stifling ourselves. That's the holy grail for these people. It's getting us to stifle our own speech and our own actions for fear of what will happen to us. We have to overcome that. And the best way in May is to just wipe them out completely.
Yes,
wipe
totally
them out.
Agreed. I mean, there's
you've
a
got to
very
get
good
that
point
message
here.
around. If we don't do that, then the repercussions in 5 years' time are going to be awful. I guarantee it.
Yeah,
So
I
vote them
agree.
out. Anyway.
Well, Steve Cray here says, it's daft to rely on Farage. He's let us down before. Do you know what? There's a lot of people thinking that, and I'm one of them as well. But at the same time, I'm seeing him as the only viable game in town. I'd rather vote UKIP, personally.
Well,
And I'll tell you straight.
Yeah, well, as Furky
you know,
says, vote UKIP, Nick Tenconi talks sense. So,
yeah. I know
and
it's a
he's
very
giving us...
difficult one.
Yeah.
We've got years left. That's the thing. See, we've got years left now we've got until the next general election for UKIP and Reform to put their cards on the table and see who's going to come out on top. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to split the vote either. This is so difficult, Jeff.
Yeah, I know.
But the alternative is worse than we could imagine. As Rosemary, thank you for your comment here. It's great. You know, it's very worrying what could happen. I totally agree. It is very worrying.
Yeah. Make the UK great again. Yeah. So that's the sort of sentiment I want to see. What we've got, isn't it strange that when you view America, everybody castigates them for having interests and not friends? You know, it's strange that Trump's coming in and he's looking after American interests because the voters want him to look after American interests. And I applaud that. In the UK, we have successive governments who go around the world giving away interests in the hope of finding friends. That's what they do. They give away our interests in the hope of finding friends. And then we all look on while the whole world just takes the biggest ever whoopsie on us, don't we? Because they've given away all our interests. Oh, they're all our friends. That phrase, friends and partners, keeps on coming back at us, doesn't it? And every time we get bitten in the bum again.
Can't we give away David Lammy?
Yeah, but he's not an asset, is he?
That is true, yeah. And who would have him?
Oh, yeah, who would have him? Yeah. Oh, look, here's someone who'll work against your interests. Why not have him in your parliament instead of ours? Yeah. God,
absolutely.
Dear me. What a shambles. No wonder people look at us and say, you know, you hear about all this healthcare, what do you call it? Healthcare tourism, where people pile into planes and come over here for their free births and their free this and free hips and all the rest of it. We don't do anything about it. It would be Do you know something? Here's one for you. Those same doctors who won't charge for foreigners to be treated here on the NHS would never, ever, ever turn up at their local Bupa or other private clinic where they do services for the wealthy. They would never treat anyone for free there, would they? If you sent all the people off the planes there, would they treat them for free there? No, they wouldn't.
Well,
the same doctors. These are the same people.
Hang on, Jeff. I was watching something I saw on Twitter. It was like a hustings. It was not hustings, where the police were addressing the community. I'm not sure if it was in Manchester. I might be completely wrong here. And apparently, the people staying at the hotels or wherever it was will be getting private healthcare because to ensure that the NHS isn't overloaded by the impact of them on the community, so that they will be now instead getting private healthcare. I was like, wow, okay, so you don't just get healthcare if you come to this country, you get the Rolls Royce, you get the private healthcare.
Yeah, but who's paying? Who's paying?
Oh, they are. Taxpayer. Jeff, come on, they're paying with their contribution to society.
No, it's the taxpayer paying for the private healthcare provision.
What? No.
Yeah.
Our government would never approve of that. Our system would never let that happen. That could spark a revolution.
Now, here's a comment that I see a lot. Brexit should have fixed everything. The problem with the ECHR is it's the European Court of Human Rights. It has nothing to do with the European Union. It's part of the Council of Europe, which is a totally different organization to the European Union. The fact they have the same flag, the same anthem, and work generally from the same buildings has got nothing to do with it. But the Council of Europe does predate the European Union, and we're a signatory. There are now 46 members of the Council of Europe. There used to be 47, but Russia was resigned and was thrown out on the same day over the Ukraine thing in 2020 or 2021. So they were thrown out. So there's 46 members and only 27 in the EU. So just shows you that the EU isn't the only game in town. And the Council of Europe also does have sort of integrationist policies and beliefs about Europe being sort of more together. So it's not like leaving the European Union was ever the single thing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry, I've just been, one of the comments here said, I believe that public meeting could have taken place in Altrincham. I think it might have been. I'm not entirely sure myself. I was in an orphanage as a little baby in Altrincham as well. So, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, dear, never mind. I'm enjoying this live stream. Cheers, lads. Well, we enjoy doing them. So I'm hoping that sort of comes across. We just like to banter about a bit and talk about various things that we hope you find interesting. But it's easy just to sort of bounce off of the comments and all the rest of it.
We're just reframing the news, giving you trying to give you a perspective that isn't so establishment focused. I mean, you can watch, granted, on Talk TV and on GB News, you're going to get a better framing of it, but you're not going to get the full framing either there. I'm afraid to say, because they are constrained as well. A lot
of people realise that GB News does come under the auspices of Ofcom, so they're actually controlled in some ways in what they can say. And if the government makes a diktat that says you must say this is good, then Ofcom says you must say this is good for the benefit of the nation, if you see what I mean. And that's how it works.
There's a repeated comment here. You said Brexit would fix everything. Well, that's the thing, see, because as Jeff rightly pointed out, the ECHR is a separate entity technically to the EU itself. However, I mean, if we were untangling ourselves from the gigantic tentacles of Europe, we'll say, of European integration, then surely we should have just left the ECHR as a matter of course, or at very least had a very different relationship to the ECHR. That's what should have happened. Well, but it didn't, because they didn't want it to happen. You know, don't for one moment think that Boris Johnson wanted us to have our own personal freedoms. I mean, he only flip-flopped his way across to. Initially, he was a Remainer, and then look, I can see how I can get into power. Oh, it's your turn, Johnson. Johnson, your turn to go into power. Now vote for Brexit. But don't tell them, but they'll never really get it. Yeah. That's what we were encountering. Sorry, Jeff.
The ECHR is separate. It is separate from the European Union. But the trouble is that the European Union, to join the European Union or to be in the European Union as a member state, you have to sign up to the ECHR. That's one of the main things. But the trouble is that Brussels itself, the European Union bodies like the European Court of Justice, European Parliament, the European Commission and the European Council, and all their decisions and anything that flows from the treaties is not covered by the ECHR. Not. Because in 2009, under the Lisbon Treaty, Brussels, as the European Union collective, should have signed up and come under the ECHR. They haven't. That's 10 years. 14, 15 years now since we signed up to the Lisbon Treaty, or they did, and they have not obeyed their own international law to join the ECHR. They keep talking about it, but never getting there. And I'll tell you exactly why they haven't. Because the European Court of Justice, the EU's own court, did say in 2014 that if we do sign up to the ECHR, the European Union is no longer paramount. It is no longer sovereign. It is no longer at the top of the pile. The Council of Europe is. And so the European Union has been trying to come up with a fudge ever since. So it stays top dog, but looks like it's coming under the ECHR. And as a result, the people in the European Union don't have the direct ability to take the EU itself to the European Court of Human Rights because it's not a signatory, but they force everyone else to be a signatory. And part of our leaving the European Union under the Brexit deal was we must remain a member of the Council of Europe's ECHR in order to have a Brexit deal. And that's what keeps us in. And we need to ditch it. We just need to tell them, no, we're gone.
I think we've become so reliant on... We are still reliant on Europe on a few things because, I mean, aren't we getting a lot of our electricity from France, Jeff?
Yeah, we do. We can do. But they've got a lot of nuclear power stations. And for some reason or other, they have sort of more stable electricity than we do, it seems.
Yeah.
I wonder why that would be.
Our infrastructure has been set up to become fragile and reliant on other places.
Same as our military.
Absolutely.
And it's the same across the whole of the European sort of union type bloc, that area. They're trying to make them all reliant on each other so that everything becomes one big cohesive mess, and it will be a mess.
Exactly.
Look at Germany. Germany's falling apart right now economically.
Individual member states cannot exist outside of the European Union, or they can exist, except they'll find it difficult because the framework of the EU is set up to weaken individual member states and take away their ability to be not self-sufficient, but have some kind of self-reliance. It's very clever what they've done, but it has to be unpacked now. And one of the reasons that it's held in this position, again, is through debt. And that's another story that I'm not going to go into as well. But European member states are legally obligated to certain aspects of debt within the European Union, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we have, if there was a mass default by European member states, maybe things could change. Again, we've spoken, you and I personally, on this.
We've had this discussion before. All that debt is held by people like pension companies.
Yeah.
They hold a lot of that debt. If a whole lot defaulted, everybody's pension would go. Any private pension would just disappear overnight. Yeah. And then the state would have to step in. So what would change? Anyway, here's a good one. Go listen to James O'Brien. No, thank you very much. I'm not listening to James O'Brien. He does what they say does me head in. You know what I mean? And Patrick Christie's pushes the boundary on GB News. I love his stuff. I think he's great. Yeah. So he's a good presenter. He does. He says, poof, he goes straight in there, doesn't he, with it all.
Yeah, he's the only one.
Wonder how long he'll last. What do you reckon? How long will he last?
Not long. As I said, he's the only one who's cutting left there. Neil Oliver's on his way out, from what I can gather.
Well, I haven't seen him much lately, so.
No, he's just doing this podcast, I believe, from home. I'm not entirely sure. There was something said on this on Dan Wootton, so I may be wrong. But there was also something on the Dan Wootton show, which I thought on his YouTube channel, that was very, very interesting. And it was a comment, I believe he was in discussion. I might have got this wrong, Dan, so forgive me if I have. I believe Dan was in discussion with a high-powered Tory donor. And this high-powered Tory donor said that Keir Starmer would be the first British Prime Minister to ever be airlifted out of Downing Street for his own safety. So, yeah. I don't know, not my words.
But Richard, his own safety from which demographic?
Well, there is that. Because he hasn't exactly... I mean, the thing is, he can't play fully to that demographic because otherwise, there would be... I mean, this country would just explode instantly. It would be that would be it. So,
I think you're right there, yes. Anyway, Richard and I have got to go off and do something else now. We might have to prepare for another live stream in a couple of hours' time because there's something that's caught our eye in the news. So what I say is, Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in, as they say, and interacting with us and having a laugh with us. We hope and getting a bit serious. But at the end of the day, we've got to stay in good spirits
Yes.
and believe that we can make this better by just talking about these things and then talking to other about these things and spreading the word. It's very important. So
Yes, and
I'll
it's I've got to say it's lovely seeing the little community that we've got in the comment section
yeah.
building up. And as I always say in each video, I have to do it because Jeff
Oh,
doesn't
here we
like
go.
doing it. Yeah, here we go. You ready? Ready? Please press the like button, and please press the subscribe button, because most people who watch YouTube videos aren't subscribed to the channels that they're watching regularly. If you do it, it helps us. If you like what we're doing, help us. Help.
We need everything
Anyway.
we can get. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much, everyone. And so it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him. Goodbye.
Goodbye.